This is the Kremlin, citadel of Russian communism. Looking at Russia, we might see it as a country to be studied, as we study other nations of the world. Yet we know that Russia today is regarded as a grave threat to our nation, to our freedom, to the peace of the world. Why so? What makes it a threat? Looking closer, we see a clue. Public display of giant portraits of communist leaders. These leaders, by their actions, have caused the world to stand guard. Here, in Russia, you see the reason why so many nations are building up their defenses. Here, in Russia, you see the reason why we are spending billions of dollars in defense production, why your family is paying the highest taxes in our history. The leaders of Russia tell us their only concern is the defense of their own nation. Is this so? Or are they ambitious for world conquest? Question. A question of communism. Ever hear of Karl Marx? In his mind, communism was born more than 100 years ago. He looked at the world and saw men as divided into two classes, workers and capitalists. In the Communist Manifesto, he called upon the workers, the proletarians, to rise up and overthrow their capitalistic masters. He cried, "The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries, unite." This was the promise and the challenge of communism. In Russia, the Tsar was the government. To support the wealthy aristocracy, millions of peasants toiled in virtual slavery. The Cossacks, dreaded police of the Tsar, enforced tyrannical laws. Here was fertile ground for the ideas of communism. For here, indeed, the people had nothing to lose but their chains, the chains of the imperial government. In 1914, the Tsar sent his troops into the war that swept Europe. For more than 2 years they fought. While at home, people suffered from shortages, brought about the despotism and corruption of the imperial government. The people grew rebellious. Only a strong army could sustain the Tsar in power. But revolution was preached on the battlefield, too, to an army broken with corruption. Inevitably, the Russian army surrendered. And with the defeated army returning under the banners of revolution, the imperial government fell and revolution reigned. The chains were broken, and in violence was born the government of the proletarians. But a government needs leaders. Ever hear of Nikolai Lenin? He was the first leader of communist Russia. Leon Trotsky was another. Lenin lived but a few years, and out of the vicious struggle for power that followed his death, Joseph Stalin emerged as undisputed leader. Here was a new face, but in the background was an old one, Karl Marx. He established the ultimate aim of communism as world revolution. And the rulers of communist Russia, while firmly establishing their authority at home, created an international organization to stir up revolution throughout the world. Communism was on the march. Stalin was in the Kremlin. But what of the people? The proletarians who had fought to win a new world. Their new world might look promising, but although the land had been taken away from the capitalists, the workers didn't get it. Under communism, virtually everything belongs to the state. The individual has little right to own property or to plan his own life. He's told where to work with his employer. Little freedom to leave his job or seek a better one. Whereas we believe, and our religions teach, that the individual is all important, communism denies religion and debases the individual to a part of the vast machine that powers the state. Children are taken early and molded to fit the machine. Here is no search for truth, The government writes the textbooks, and the children are taught to accept communism and their fate without question. The Kremlin runs all elections, and the outcome is always the same. If anyone dares to disagree, he's given a speedy trial without benefit of jury. Such traitors may be immediately executed or sent off to prison. The proletarians have nothing to but their chains. They have a world to win. Although the people of Russia gained little, the rulers gained mightily in power. They built up a giant war machine, looking forward to the day when their flag would fly over the entire world. Then came the rise of Nazi Germany, another power bent on world conquest. The two nations joined forces, and Russia, believing itself safe from aggression, launched an invasion of Finland and other neighboring nations. For the first time, the world learned that the communists were no longer waiting for world revolution, but were now resorting to outright military aggression to extend their power. After the Nazis turned on their former allies, we supplied Russia with immense quantities of military equipment to wage war against our common foe. And how did Russia come out of the war? In 1917, at the time of the revolution, Russia was already a land of vast area. Soon after the end of World War II, Russia had occupied many new territories, bringing additional millions of people under communist control, and serving notice that Soviet Russia was now a world power to be reckoned with. United with Russia in war, we strove to preserve that unity in peace. We helped organize the United Nations, in which the nations of the world have mutually pledged to cooperate in fostering world peace and progress. Andrei Gromyko signed for Russia. But in the first post-war Italian elections, the communists created disorder in an attempt to gain control of the government. Once more, the world was reminded that basic in the idea of communism is the plan of world revolution, and that Russian communism has stepped beyond that plan to achieve world domination through aggression. In Indochina and Malaya, communist aggression has incited rebellion against established government. In France, communist aggression has fomented strikes against essential industries in attempts to discredit the free government. In Iran, the communists have incited rioting and have preached hatred and distrust of the Western nations. In Eastern Germany, they have openly opposed the West. In China, the communists have established their own puppet government. In Korea, communist aggression has come into actual combat with forces of the United Nations. And with the most deadly of all weapons available to the Russians, no peoples in the world can feel secure against this aggression. How are we meeting this challenge? Yes, one way is by helping the free world fight starvation and poverty and suffering, conditions that pave the way for communist infiltration. We are also supplying equipment for the free nations to develop their own resources and raise their living standards. Another way we are meeting the challenge is by military alliance with some of the other free nations for mutual aid in opposing direct communist aggression. And we are building up our own military defense. But do these preparations mean that we have abandoned hope for peace? No. In the United Nations, we are continually seeking a workable plan for living in peace with communist Russia. Because we want peace, but we do not want this. We believe in freedom. Freedom, born of the conviction that every person is a child of God and is therefore of supreme worth. For these people, for ourselves, for everyone. We want freedom, not tyranny.
What comprises this greater Philadelphia area? Well, the Delaware River is a boundary only on the maps. The Philadelphia city limits are mere road markers, pointing the way to a whole new world. First, across the Delaware Bridge to our equally industrious, equally prosperous neighbor, Camden, New Jersey. The destinies of our two cities are linked together by a spirit, a common good that no mere river can divide. 2 years ago, this was farmland and forest. Levittown, now one of the 10 largest cities in Pennsylvania. For workers anywhere else in the world, this would be a miracle in itself. Trenton, New Jersey, the state capital, where government is big business, but far from the only one. Like most cities in this wondrous area, Trenton is proud of its past, but prouder yet of its future. Wilmington, Delaware, a half-hour ride from Philadelphia, but closer than that in kinship and spirit. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where every Christmas a huge star glows from a hilltop, where every other night in the year the sky is lit by the hungry furnaces of Little Steel. Coal from Pennsylvania mines to feed to monsters that never grow cold. And then steel. In myriad forms, for many purposes. Steel, the backbone and shield of our way of life. Reading, Easton, Allentown, Chester, Pottsville. All these people, and many thousands more, are neighbors of the infant who sleeps in Philadelphia. And it's the dream of every little boy to shop at Allentown's Hess Brothers, where a single toy can cost $5,000. Winkin' and Blinkin' are two little eyes, and Nod is a little head, and the wooden shoe that sailed the skies is a wee one's trundle bed. The Delaware River, winding 40 miles to the sea from the port of Philadelphia, the world's largest freshwater port. Here, a cargo ship arrives or departs every 30 minutes of every day or night. Within a 100-mile radius of this port live 21 million people, a greater population density than any other comparable area. This port, with its magnificent facilities, has played the largest single part in bringing our miracle to pass. For this is the Magnet, a safe harbor, free from storms and free from strife, with less man-hours lost because of labor disputes than any other port in the country. Since the end of World War II, the world's most ambitious program of port improvement never has stopped. New facilities for docking, loading, storage, plans for dredging the Delaware to keep it safe for any ship, regardless of size. From this port, goods can be shipped overnight to more than 50 million people, 1/3 of the nation's population. Unlike many other large ports, this is no hotbed of violence and corruption. The tradition here is one of peaceful mediation, of steady employment. We've kept our waterfront clean. Only for the racketeers is there very little work. From the rich truck farms of New Jersey, food for the best-fed nation in the world. This unceasing activity on Dock Street is a constant reminder to us that the waters of the Delaware surging down to the sea, this is our very lifeblood. And so sleep on. The future looks secure. And material goods aren't all we have to offer you. This city is rich in many ways. Fairmount Park, the largest city-owned park, and again we have to say it, anywhere in the world. Independence Hall, where you were born free and guaranteed a free press, newspapers, both great and small. So you'll come to learn not only the geography of your city, but its essential character as well. In the shadow of the new, the heritage and dignity of the old. You're crying. Well, you may have your reasons, but think of all the fun that lies ahead. The theater, like you, one of Philadelphia's growing children. There, for example, the Walnut Theater, the nation's oldest, but playing the latest hits. Someday you may play football at Franklin Field, or at least root them on from the stands. For in this town, there's always something to help you stop crying. To stand up and cheer instead. Connie Mack Stadium, named for a man whose name will never be forgotten in Philadelphia or the Baseball Hall of Fame. Sunday morning, a time of repose, if not of rest. And we're on our way to give our thanks for the many, many blessings we enjoy. A quiet Sunday. And a happy new year. The Mummers Parade, the grandfather of all spectacles, costumes that have been a year in the making, costing many thousands of dollars apiece. Wild, weird, but above all wonderful. The Mummers are on parade. It's been a busy day. So many things to do. So get your sleep now, while you still have time. The years to come will be a tireless challenge. This miracle on the Delaware has been wrought in a comparatively few years. And WPTZ, one of America's television pioneers, has seen this miracle come to pass, has, we believe, contributed to its creation. For things alone will not make a city great, nor give a people a feeling of loyalty and confidence, a sense of belonging to a healthy community. This is accomplished largely by ideas, flashing in the night of complacency and ignorance. Since 1932, WPTZ has been sharing the lives of the people it serves, helping them find a better way of life. This proud tradition of service and responsibility has grown through the years, as indeed our city has grown with its sense of pride and accomplishment. A sign that flashes in the dark. As a medium of communication, this is the role we play. A moment of thought in a busy day. The sun is warm and life is good. You have seen your city and its many facets with a little envy and a lot of pride. Once again, welcome.
Henry calling. Badge 1317. What's that address? Wait a minute, I'll write it down. 1708 Elko. Name is Carney. Yeah. Neighbors are worried, huh? Okay, I'll check it. 1708, that's the old widow's place. I'll get right over there.
Yes? Who is it? What do you want?
It's Officer Henry, ma'am, the policeman on the beat. Can I come in?
Yes, it's all right. Come ahead. Yes? What is it, officer?
Why, Mrs. Carney, your neighbors have been worried. You haven't been outside since you get back from the hospital, and they phoned the district station, and I was notified to check up and see that you were all right.
They shouldn't have bothered you. There's nothing you can do about it.
About what, Mrs. Carney?
About me. I'm tired and I'm ill. However, I've paid for my room. I'm not troubling anyone.
Oh, I know that, and I sure don't mean to interfere, ma'am. But I did get the call, and if you're sick, I could get an ambulance for you.
I'm not going back to the hospital. I'm staying right here in my room.
Easy now, ma'am.
Oh.
Say, you are sick.
I'm not going to leave here.
Mrs. Carney, if you don't want an ambulance, won't you let me call social service at City Hospital? They can send a visiting nurse to see you.
A visiting nurse? I don't understand.
They're paid through the community chest.
I won't take charity.
Well, you can pay what you're able. But, you know, as long as I've been around this neighborhood, I've heard about you're doing nice things for people. Maybe it's time someone did something for you.
But I have no family. No one who really cares.
Oh, Mrs. Carney, there are a lot of folks who care. The people who give one day's pay to the community chest. They put up that money to help folks just like you here in our own hometown. And I know what those dollars do because I see it most every day. There's a man I help across the street. He's on his way home from Industrial Aid for the Blind. He lost his sight some years ago, but thanks to this chest agency, he's still able to earn most of his living. It's wonderful what fine work those sightless folks can do. And there's my own sister, Amelia. Every weekday of the world, she takes my nephew, Jimmy, to the Stella Morris Day Nursery out on Union. Amelia's a widow. She has to work, and if it wasn't for the day nursery, she'd have no place where she could leave the boy. It's a fine place for youngsters, games and refreshments, and they learn how to get along with other kids. Yes, sir, that's a community chest agency that means a lot to a lot of young mothers. You know, a policeman is called upon to do all kinds of things, and I guess that's why he knows what the community chest means to St. Louis. I remember a man who was hurt in an accident, and I helped get him to the hospital. His right arm was paralyzed. He didn't have much hope of ever working again. That is, not until he was transferred to the Miriam Hospital out in Webster Groves. Out there they have ways of helping people to get their strength back so as they can use their legs and arms. The men and women who come there are sometimes crippled and helpless, and when they leave, they're ready to return to active lives. Well, I figure that work like that is worth an awful lot to St. Louis. That community chest dollars are a mighty fine investment for everybody. You know, Mrs. Carney, a few years ago, there was a lot of talk about gangs and kids running wild. And I just wonder if people know the other side of the story. I used to see it every day at the YMCA Youth Center out on Page Boulevard. That's a place where boys and men can meet and have a good time, and while they're at it, learn something about being good citizens. Oh, they all pay dues, but still, without some help from the chest, the place would have to close down, and where would those boys go then? For that matter, where would a lot of people go if it weren't for some of the agencies supported by your community chest dollars? the servicemen who were coming here and asking us, where can we go? They were just in town for a few hours between trains or for a weekend pass. Now, thanks to the success of last year's community chess campaign, we can send them to the USO at Soldiers Memorial, a place to clean up and get passes for movies and ball games and just relax. We certainly wouldn't be fair to the boys in service if we didn't maintain places like these. Yes, sir. Where would people turn if it weren't for the red feather agencies? Sometimes they find homes for babies whose own parents can't care for them. That means a new life for the youngster and a new kind of happiness for the parents who give her that foster home until her own folks can take over. And sometimes that red feather means a decent last few years for an old person with nowhere else to go, a chance to live in peace and dignity. Like I said, Mrs. Carney, there are a lot of people who care about their neighbors, who want to help them and do help them by giving one day's pay to the community chest each year. You've always been one of those people, haven't you?
Why, yes. I always gave as much as I was able to. It seemed only right.
It was right. I know, because day in and day out, I see what those dollars buy.
Officer Henry, I'm so glad you came to see me. I guess here in my room alone, I'd forgotten that in this country, in this city, people do care about each other. I guess you never really know how much the community chest can mean until you need it. You who give one day's pay to the Greater St. Louis Community Chest will walk with that visiting nurse. You'll be with her not only when she comes to care for me, but in all the homes where she's truly an angel of mercy, bringing special skill and care to those who need it. You'll give youngsters sunshine and fresh air at summer camps. You give the blind and the handicapped a chance at employment and a real right to the self-respect that comes with self-support. You make old age an easier time for many folks and give youth a sense of really belonging to the community. You find homes for homeless infants and extend a welcome to servicemen who are a long way from their own towns. Yes, we who come to need the community chest agencies learn that they're always on call, that the services they perform are worth far, far more than what they cost. We know that you do give best through community chest. So, please, give the best you can.